Welcome back, good people. It's time to address a number of things. We want to look at, it's unfortunate that we were looking for SEC closeout this postseason for college football. I was thinking, Arizona State potentially could, go ahead and win against Texas, and then eventually the Notre Dame and Georgia match, potentially Georgia falling out. That would have been, a pretty good indication of where things are at with the SEC in comparison to other conferences. And clearly we can see that right now it seems like the Big Ten is going to go back to back with another title for this season. And I was disappointed that, Arizona State didn't pull that off. But to all demand and the complaints I was hearing about how there wasn't enough good matchups to where, there was 20-point margins and blowouts, and it's the committee's fault because of these matchups. Well, no, there's a lot of factors. Usually home court has the advantage whenever you're playing any game, especially with the intensity of a win and go home matchup. So this was the first year of the expanded playoffs to 12 members, and we look forward to it being bigger to 16. And the reason for that is so other teams that wasn't discussed can get in. And that's the whole purpose of expanding the playoffs anyways, to broaden the members of joining or making it into the playoffs by extending it with the auto bids. For an example, I believe that the format should be to where each conference out of the Power Four should have the equal amount bids, and I would say 3. I think the SEC should have 3, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the ACC, and let them all play, and all the results will remain on the field. The best 3 of those conferences. Now, if the conference itself want to do like a inter-conference play-in to get those 3 slots, then that's fine. That could happen. But I think that should be equally across the playing field, because it's not about, the better conference should get more buy-ins. No, that's just still skewed towards making it unfair, and the whole hypothetical conversation of, our conference is better, when clearly when they get on the field, it is not proving that. So it's about win and loss at the end of the day, who won and who lost. And that's who goes on and beyond. And if you're good, as I always say, prove it on the field. It's not about saying you good. It's about the results. When the teams play to each other, the results will determine who is the better team for that day, because clearly it's about who come prepared for that particular matchup is the team that usually wins. It's not about, just all of a sudden this team is going to win, so on and so forth. So, and you clearly saw that perfect example with the Oregon-Ohio State game. Oregon pretty much ran the tables. I don't know in particular what teams that they played throughout the season, but they ran the tables, and you clearly see that it's not about, we think that Oregon is the best team, we think that Oregon is going to win a championship. No, it's about how they show up at that particular game. It doesn't matter of what they did throughout the season. It's about on that particular game, how did they show up? How did they perform? And that's what determines who goes on to the next round. And that's clearly what it's about, wins and losses. This proves the point of it's all about wins and losses, nothing else, not hypotheticals, not speculative speculation. It's about winning and losses. So with that being said, that should help the committee moving forward on if there's going to be any changes, and also if there's going to be an extension to where it's 14 or 16 members, and the discussion of the play-in, that's a conference determination. But I do think it needs to be across the board. That's why it's important to have a organizational approach to college football. Okay, it has to have structure, and it has to be across the board, so things will be on an equal playing field, equal opportunity. And we don't care if people think based off of the best recruiting class or who is most likely to go to the NFL determines who is going to win. That's all speculative talk. Who's going to win the national title? No, it's about who comes prepared out of all the 64 plus teams that's in college football. It doesn't matter. It's about who comes best prepared for that particular match before them. Each week determines who wins the national title. Not, oh, I think they are because these many recruits or this. No, it's not about any of that. That's good for discussion. That's good for all the other hypothetical things, but it's not a reality. So we need to move far away from the hypotheticals and move back into the realization of performance per game, wins and losses. Now, speaking of the Big 12, okay, we didn't discuss BYU or Colorado for potentially getting into the playoffs. Now, if any changes are done moving forward with expanding the count of membership to 14 or 16, yes, 10 and 2 teams in these big conferences are worthy of making it to the playoffs, period. And even in some cases, it may be room for a 9 and 3 team. I don't know. But I believe that BYU and Colorado, along with Arizona State, should have been in the playoffs. That's 3 teams. And I believe that the Big 12 is a 3-team bid conference. They got 16 members. And out of all that dualship throughout the conference and going back and forward, competing with one another, and the best 3 teams can compete with other teams in the conference. And outside of the conference, in the other conferences, whether it be the Big Ten, SEC, period. And they should have the opportunity. It's not called who's deserving. It's not about who's deserving. It's called equal opportunity to prove themselves that they are the better team against the other team who's saying they're the better team. And so clearly the Big 12 only got 1 program in because of all the speculative discussion about who's this and who's that, as opposed to letting the record speak for itself. And that's why people want it to be speculative and hypothetical, because it creates room for favoritism. Oh, I favor this team, or I think this team should be in. And then you got all this stuff going on with the conversation versus letting it all be on the field. So that's why we need to move away from that type of mentality. That's the old way. We are going into where, everybody is just polarity across the Power 4 conferences. And any team can win on any given night. And that has shown. Look at Oregon. They got blew out. And I ain't going to say blew out, but 21 points is considered a blowout in college football. If you lose by that many, the game is over. If a team get up 21-0, the game is pretty much over, period. And so we kind of saw that with all of the matchups, but not so much with Texas and Arizona. Okay. And so that tells you that the Big 12 strength of schedule is proven right there when the SEC matches up with the Big 12 and they give them a run for their money. And they could have really lost. To be honest with you, they could have lost. And I just believe that you can't ignore that moving forward. And so the Big 12 should be a 3-team bid conference, period, moving forward. And this clearly shows on the performance on the field against Texas. They had no other things to compare. If BYU was in, we could have used that as a data point to compare of these things. But you only had 1 Big 12 school, period. and can use the data point, and that was a good enough data point moving forward for the next year to prove that the Big 12 is solid, as I've been saying all year long. For a team like Arizona State to work its way through the conference and win the conference and then compete against Texas on that level, yeah, the Big 12 is solid. And this proves that with this data point. So moving forward, we want to see 2 to 3 programs from the Big 12, the top 3 schools in the playoffs, period. And the Big 12 is a force to be reckoned with in football moving forward, and you will see that in the next years to come. And so, yeah, that's what we wanted to discuss, that BYU should have been in the playoffs this year, and potentially Colorado, but unfortunately no 9-3 teams were considered unless you were Alabama. And then how the rankings mess up this whole approach, the whole philosophy on having room for what you think should be as opposed to wins and losses. But once again, thank y'all for watching. Till next time, www.size-11.com. Go to the website, subscribe to my channel, and hit the like button. And till next time.